we gather around the hearth today? What is the hearth, in your opinion, and how do we get ourselves around the hearth?
Yeah. It's funny that you're asking this because I've been talking to a lot of friends because I have a lot of friends who are middle-aged women and their lives have turned out not to look like what they thought it was going to. Family has changed dramatically, divorce, death. And one of the common things that seems to come up for all of us is we talk about the table. Like I'll say, and you've probably said this to you, like one of the hardest things about the shifting of my own family is, but I always imagined us all sitting around the table together, when just growing old around the table, telling there's
Right.
particularly my family, we have, you know, a lot of like just long lingering breakfasts and laughter and talking and I've heard this from my other friends too that it's like, well, yeah, my grandchildren, I imagined my grandchildren coming and sitting around the table. Or I think that the I guess they did use the hearth in the olden days was to cook, right? So it's probably not that
Mhm.
different that somehow the kitchen, the table, the meal times are, I mean, it's with my friends as well. And this is to answer your question, one of the things that I've tried to remind myself is that the family, I'm putting that in quotes, family for me is anytime I'm really at a table with somebody with a spaciousness of time and maybe a cup of coffee or a meal and, no phones anywhere to be seen. To me, that's the hearth.
Yeah, that is I'm with you on that. And it's I've always been made anxious by those times, actually, with my children and my marriage, which ended, and then my new partner. One of our maybe unstated but intentional on my part practices was always to eat our meals together, always at the table. None of
Yes.
this dashing about, um, you know, grabbing a piece of toast and putting it in your mouth as you run to the BART. We made a point of, and I'm as I'm saying this, I'm expressing my gratitude for that we made that a practice,
Yes.
even if it wasn't stated.
You and I tend to talk about intention a lot, right? I think it's one of the places we connect, and it's like setting those intentions is really important
Yeah.
because, like what you were saying, how grateful you are for those times around the table. I feel the same way. Both at my mom's house on all our visits, we always eat together, but also when my son was growing up, and those times are irreplaceable. You
Right.
know,
They're gone. I mean, they're
they're gone.
they're ephemeral, and so is our life, right? So is our
So is our
life. I
life.
mean, you and I had a conversation yesterday about, we were talking about celebration and joy, and how, with no mud, no lotus, the other side of that is there's plenty of sorrow and sadness to go around. There's despair, there's inequality, there's oppression, there's mental health issues. There's so many things going on that we can't celebrate. There's illness. And often when we're thinking about home or the search for a home, we're thinking, wow, I love this living room. I could have a great party here. And that's so wonderful that we're thinking about. Um, One of the things you'll see in real estate description often is perfect for entertaining. Okay.
Right.
We're thinking perfect for entertaining. But what we're not thinking is perfect for if I'm undergoing chemotherapy,
Wow.
right? You know,
Wow.
where do you want to be in
Wow.
sickness and in health? Where do you want to
Wow.
be? How do you want it to feel? Um, that's
That's
something that I hold
that is
for
so
my clients.
powerful. It's so powerful. And I thought where you were going to go, because I think this is a side aspect of this, which is we don't have a home that is at all perfect for entertaining. Our house is so small, we barely have room for a table. And and that doesn't stop me from having all of my, the I love the fun linens, and I love the candles, and I love to make things special, and I love to bring out the, surprise love list for people at the dinner table. Like, I think that there's also, this is a piece of it, right? That it's like, um we don't always have those outer fixings that we think will make a home, and that's where
Right.
we bring. And I think what you're saying is similar. Sometimes we have the outer fixings, and the life that we're living is not matching that. And again, how do we feel at home
Right.
in all of these places that are hard and disappointing, are really important questions. Yeah.
And if you were answering that question, um, I think the answer is that we need first to look for home within ourselves. I mean, home in dreams and Jungian analysis, home is really the metaphor for our very selves. If you're dreaming about a house, you're dreaming
Yeah.
about your actual body, probably. Um, and I think some people don't want to hear this, but I think that takes some kind of a spiritual practice. It takes some kind of reflection or turning inward to find home within ourselves. Do you think that's the
I
case?
do. And I agree. I know people don't like to hear it. People, the words meditation or yoga or grounding, those all could have kind of this like woo sensibility about them. But the truth of it is that everything externally, and we've sort of been hinting at this, we all know this, everything externally is not guaranteed.
Right.
Right? Really, that's what we have, is that hearth inside of ourselves, as cheesy as that sounds. That's really the only place that we know we could go to for our entire lives.
Right.
And so I do agree. And it's, I feel compelled to say this because I wanted to when you were talking about the hats, right? The reason I wear hats is because I was suicidal for a long time. And when I decided that I was going to stay on this planet, I also made a choice that I was going to celebrate. And so if my house doesn't feel like me, if the family doesn't look like I want it to anymore, if things are changing in ways I don't like, I'm still dedicated to, what can I celebrate? The
Right.
hat is my way of reminding myself, right? Like, maybe it's a part of my heart. Like, you know, you have that capacity.
That is so beautiful. I mean, what a great, I mean, and what you said about the hearth inside ourselves. There's a poem by, I think it's David White, you know, or there's a few poems, but there's one about sort of coming home to ourself, coming home to yourself, to the one who has always loved you,
Yes.
coming home to that, the one who's always loved you. And you're talking about the hearth inside yourself, and I feel a little teary, so I'm going to try and just soldier on through this. But that something about pouring yourself a glass and celebrate, acknowledging yourself, the friend within. There's something, that's where it all starts. That's
It
where it all starts.
is. It is. And, I'm glad that we sort of came around to this, because it does speak to, for most people, I imagine most people, I know there are some lucky people who have their dream home and they're going to retire in that home with their family, and, that Rockwell, Norman Rockwell sort of thing. But for most people, that's not the case. For most people, we're going to live in different homes, and some of them are going to we're going to like, and some we aren't, and sometimes we're going to be lonely, and sometimes we're going to be with people we love. And it's like, right, like, so what we've come to is, it's like, if we're carrying that with us wherever we go, that's like our starting place.
Yeah. Like it's like carrying the flame, like carrying
Yeah,
the little thing that you can make the fire with. You know, you have it.
exactly.
You can you can have that hearth.